Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today we are going to see a movie in our home. It's called Talk to Me, an Australian horror film which has been released on Netflix. And the world is abuzz. At least people are recommending this to us.
Yeah, people who are into horror films are like, it's the best horror film of the year.
Yeah, and it's in the Netflix top 10, which means that maybe some of you have seen this. And so we have decided to watch it. What do you know about this, Kathy?
Just that you recommended that we should watch it, Dave.
Oh, great. Okay, nothing else?
No, nothing else. Sorry. What do you know about it?
I'm impressed that you are willing to watch this, because you're not usually one to jump on horror movies. And you got burned last week on FNAF, as it's known by the kids.
It's spooky season and everyone's saying it's really good, so I'll give it a go.
Okay, what do I know about it? It is, I know lots after looking it up on IMDb. Mm-hmm. It has been written and directed by twins, Australian twins.
Instantly cool and horrifying.
Pretty cool.
We've all seen The Shining.
Like those Duffer Brothers.
Yeah.
So they are twins. They are called Danny and Michael Philippou. Mm-hmm. Actually, only one of them wrote it with two other writers. But the two of them are co-directing it. It's their feature debut.
That's
they are
amazing.
YouTube stars.
What do they do on YouTube?
I don't know. It's a channel apparently called Raka Raka.
Okay.
All the kids who watch FNAF probably know it. I'm starting to feel really old lately. Are you? It's like YouTube stars are making
that's incredible
films. And
that YouTube stars are making a feature film. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's a horror. Their channel is like horror comedy stuff. So I guess they've cut their teeth.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be very good. So I'm quite excited. And I don't know what it's about because I've stayed sort of clean about that. There's a hand involved.
The good thing about when you're watching it on Netflix is there probably hasn't been trailers when you go to the cinema, so it doesn't get like spoiled for you as such.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's go watch it, and then we'll watch it at home this evening, and then tomorrow we shall come back and talk about it, but to you it will be mere moments.
Yes, that's the magic of editing.
No, please. It's my mom's Remembrance Day. I just want to forget about it. Huh?
Who's up?
I'll do it.
Cannot go for more than 90 seconds. Am I clear?
What happens after 90 seconds?
They'll want to stay. Light the candle to open the door. Blow it out to close it. Put your hand on it. Now say, talk to me.
Oh, hi, we're back. It's tomorrow.
Hello.
How about that? So if it's your first time on the Cinemile, we won't spoil this movie until we get to Spoiler Street, so you can listen spoiler-free and hear whether or not we recommend Talk to Me. Kathy, do you recommend Talk to Me? Do you recommend Talking to Me?
I do recommend it. I think it's a very good horror film. I'm really impressed that it's their feature debut, albeit like they've obviously made loads of content on YouTube. I think it's a very good horror film. It's actually like we watched it yesterday and it's kind of haunting me a little bit and leaving me a little bit unsettled, which I think is generally a good sign of a horror film. I think the super young cast are brilliant.
Oh yeah, they're so good.
It feels really fresh, like it feels like it's made by younger directors. And I think the premise is haunting and actually to me very unique, albeit I've not watched that many horror films, but it feels like a very unique premise to me. And yeah, I really was freaked out by it, but I think it was really good. It has some troubling themes, so we might put a bit of a content warning in ahead of getting to Spoiler Street. But I think it's got very troubling themes and I think it was handled very well, and I think visually what they did with like some of the very scary stuff was freaky, and I'm entirely unsettled by the whole thing.
Yeah, same. I thought it was brilliant. It was really good. So like just like confident out of the blocks. These teenagers. Oh, we should say what it's about. If you're interested in what the plot of this is, it's basically like like an update on the Ouija board or a seance in a way. So it's like these teenager for like Gen Z, I guess. So it's like teenagers in Adelaide in Australia who are playing around with this kind of creepy hand which allows you to communicate directly with spirits and or be possessed by them. And it's become a bit of a parlor game where they're live streaming this to each other, or posting it on their
just that in
TikToks
itself,
or whatever.
even taking out the horror elements, being in a room as a teenager where everyone around me was filming me is my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, imagine everything you did as a teenager just being captured and put online, and that kind of, given the age group in the film, that was like leaving me unsettled as well. I was like, Jesus Christ, I know they're all on TikTok, but like, are they really filming themselves this much? And there's like very distressing stuff happens in this, and people keep filming. Anyway, aside, go back to the Ouija point. It's your
So imagine that.
It.
Imagine the distress of being filmed all the time and then have somebody be possessing you. But it felt really like authentic, and I recognized that impulse, which I think is common to teenagers at any generation, where there's a group of people together and you're doing something kind of dangerous, and it's dangerous, and everyone's kind of egging each other on and pushing each other on.
Did you ever watch The Craft?
No, I didn't.
loved
But
that
that's
back
the
in the
witch
day.
one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it a bit like that? They're sort of.
Well, it's just like a group of teenagers like experimenting with things that are spooky and you shouldn't be experimenting with.
Yeah.
This film takes it to extremes though.
Well, it's funny because you're obviously watching this as a viewer and you're thinking, kids, what are you doing? This is so stupid. Put that thing
so
away.
stupid.
This is so reckless. And yet, but I'm at no point was I like, oh, this is not believable.
It's really believable.
It is incredibly believable because
absolutely.
we've all been that teenager.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it's just very, really unfortunate because, as we'll talk about in Spoiler Street, the consequences of their actions are, as you would expect, extremely high.
And also this film deals a lot with trauma
Yes.
and like what that would do to you.
Yeah, the character work is very good in this, isn't it? And the
so
main actress in particular,
she's brilliant.
Sophie Wilde, is the plays the main character. She's fantastic.
Yeah,
She's really
she's
good. She carries
I
it.
bought every single character in this film, albeit I felt more like the mom than the kids, which made me feel so old and depressed after
Yeah.
watching it. But I think the trauma is very deep, and I think we should go to spoilers for it now. But we both think it's a very good horror film.
Yeah, if
but
you
I
like,
would say
go on,
if you
sorry.
if you don't want to watch anything that has like suicide and self-harm, I would say don't watch this film.
Yes, and also if you it's quite violent in places. Like
yeah.
there were a few moments I had to look away.
Oh, I looked away for loads of it.
Yeah, it's very, very. It can be
graphic,
very
yeah.
violent. I would say here's the thing. I don't think it's particularly scary. I think it's kind of
It's unsettling.
upsetting.
Yeah.
And unsettling.
There was a couple of probably one very early on, very good jump scare though.
Yeah, there's a few, but it's not like it's not like massively like.
It's more
like,
psychologically disturbing,
whoa.
I think. It's like a
Um,
psychological thriller as well.
Yeah, that's true. But as you said, all the characters are really good. If you like horror, you've probably already seen this. If you're kind of not into horror, maybe this is a pretty good little drama as well.
I think it's still a
it's
good
all
film
wrapped
to
up very
watch,
well. Yeah,
and
it is
just to
good.
see is that how teenagers act?
Yeah. That's actually the scariest thing about this is watching a group of teenagers
Film each other.
film each other and push each other into increasingly reckless situations,
Yeah.
and just knowing that we did that and that we've kids who are going to grow up and do stupid things as well. It's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
upsetting. So let's go to spoilers now, but before we do, we're going to pause for a quick break. Right, so spoilers now for Talk to Me. I thought the whole idea of this hand and the production design of it, the way it was there was little writing on it, and it's
So
made in
clever.
ceramic, and there's supposed to be a hand inside in it, and just I like the whole the concept of you hold it, you say the words, they established the rules very clearly early on. You've got
Very
your
early
90
on.
seconds.
And I like
You know?
as well the film, and I think all good supernatural films or fantasy films must do this. Explain the premise and move on. If you try and delve into too much of understanding, but how did the dead people commune with you through that? You've already lost the viewer.
yeah.
So they got us straight into it. Like, well, first of all, remember there's that cold open with that kid at the party, and we don't really know what's
yeah.
happening.
That was
And then
shocking.
it cuts to this girl and her friend. Like, within the first 10 minutes, we're like in it with this hand, and like, what the fuck's going on? And like, we're watching. Like, the first time she actually sees the person in front of her, when she puts her hand in and
Yeah,
says,
that was
"Talk
good.
to me." I like that you could put your hand in and hold it, and before you say "talk to me," you could just get like a preview.
Yeah, it's like
That's the bit I would do.
it's like Tinder or whatever.
I would
You're
literally-
you're swiping.
I would
yeah,
be
yeah.
like,
Yes,
I
you
want to
can.
hover
I'll
on
let you in.
I want to hover on the edges of this and like see the spirit, but I am by no means letting them in.
I know, but I guess that's half of the fun.
But like they're all like I know like teenagers push yourself out to do dangerous things and I can be reckless, but like it's actually sick what happens to them when like their eyes filling up with all that blackness and then they're like gasping for air and like it's like pretty insane that they're all doing this.
Yeah, the actors and the makeup effects really sold the sort of the intensity
Yeah.
of it, didn't they?
And as soon as that young boy's in the room, you're just like, oh no, like don't, because he's like they're all like 17, but he's like, I don't know, 14, and like
But and you just know it's gonna go wrong. It's
especially
like
when one of them looks at him and is like, we like the look of you.
what was that? It's like don't let that kid do it. But that was the bit I was referring to where I was like I had to look. I know you looked away
I
as
did
well.
not look at
I was
any of
just
that.
like as soon as he started like you know
Bashing his head.
putting his fingers
Oh
in
my
his
God,
eye.
it's
I was like,
disgusting.
no,
Yeah.
and it was so violent. So that was the bit I found like particularly upsetting.
I
But
found it a bit upsetting as well when she kind of looked into the spirit world and saw basically
what they were
spirits,
doing
like,
to him.
They're some having sort of orgy.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
feast
no, it was
with him. It was like
gross.
Spartacus kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was like really weird as well.
That reminded me of we recently watched Event Horizon for our Patreon, and there was kind of you get flashes of hell and what that looks like.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I think they did a similar good job here of just these little like flashes
It
of
looked
it, and
really
it's like
awful, like.
it's just gruesome stuff.
And then our main character basically, like, we meet her in a state of trauma, like she's commiserating. It's her mother's like maybe 2-year anniversary since her mother died, and there's like a cloud over how her mother died, and we later learn she died by suicide, and there's like she's dealing with this deep trauma on that, and like she's incredibly distressed obviously, and she's kind of there's kind of an implication that she really only has one friend and the other people kind of laugh at her, and I found that's the stuff that I found very troubling, her unraveling and how the spirits use her mother to like lure her into doing these things. It was so well done.
yeah.
It was so well done, but it was a lot.
Yeah, you kind of understood it. Again, you're watching her do all this stuff in the third act, and you're like, it's frustrating because you're like, snap out of it.
But you also
But again,
get
you
it.
understand.
They've completely manipulated her because
Yeah.
it's like she's finally getting to talk to her mom again. So that's why I think it's such a good, clever movie. Because often with these movies, you're like, why would they still be doing that? But
Yeah,
with
exactly.
her, I got it.
She had a motivation. She was like why do you still have that hand? Would be the obvious question you'd ask.
Yeah.
But she needed it. She wanted to talk to her mom.
I
So you're right.
know.
So the script does
It's a
a
really
lot
good
of work
script.
to sell the actions of these characters.
And so often with horror films, in the end, they just become silly. And I felt at no point was this silly.
No, like
It
the
felt like
stakes
a
were
real-
super high.
yeah.
Like I was so tense
I
when.
was so invested in her, and then once she killed her dad, which was an awful scene.
Now I think he survives.
Or-
We saw him be
yeah,
discovered
he survived.
by
Okay,
the friend,
sorry,
and he's
when
alive.
she stabbed her dad in the neck by accident because she thought he was someone else, that's when I was like, oh, this character can't come back. That's too
No.
much trauma.
And what do you think about her ending then? That she was the ghost. I think that's very clever.
I think that was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought that we would see the handshake and the whole shtick from one of the ghouls' sides.
yeah, very clever.
I think that's one of the best endings I've ever seen from a horror film. Like, fantastically.
Yeah, the little candle in the distance, and
And
also
how she saved the boy though, because it was like the spirits were all like trying to get her to push the boy onto the road, and I love that her final act was saving him, because she like they said he was like her little brother, like she loved
Yeah.
him. And I think the scene where she kind of gave permission, albeit it's not really her permission to give, for him to go in and do it, and then he got so ill afterwards, her guilt was so sad over that as well. And like the friend naturally didn't want to give her grace because the friend was so angry about what happened to her little brother. So I like that her arc was saving the brother at the end, but it was some shocking scene even when she jumped in front of that car and like
Yeah.
it was a lot.
And what I think they really sold as well was the loneliness of being a spirit. You know, when she's walking through that hospital
know.
and they're all getting their happy endings, which was nice
I
to
think
see.
that was another thing the film did really well, though, wasn't it? To let us see, like, because you're kind of like, how will any
yeah.
of these people come back from this?
Oh, exactly.
But
Like,
that poor man, imagine her dad. He's now lost his wife and his daughter.
I know, right?
So there's kind of no happy ending for him. There seems to be a sense of happy ending for the other family, but
Well, we might find out more in the sequel,
I guess is there a sequel?
Talk to Me, with the number 2,
Amazing.
which I hope they change the title of. 'cause
No,
that's
they have to have
terrible.
that. No, it's brilliant.
No, it's not.
If you can integrate a number relevant to the sequel on the title of the film, that is golden.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's a great idea and I hope that's
To-
just entirely new characters.
To talk to me, too furious.
I think they should do that, and I think it will be all new characters based on the end when we saw a completely different scene.
I've got it. Talk to Me 3, Tokyo Drift. Yeah, I think new characters as well, I agree. But there'll be a reference to this. You know, they'll do the classic thing where the new characters will visit the dad to get the lore.
Oh yeah,
You
because
know,
they did a
or
Laura
something
bus
like
scene
that.
in this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, you
You
have to
can
pass
carry
on the
this on
lore.
for years, and like I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I'll watch it.
Do you know, before we finish up as well, the other thing I thought they did really well was the sort of the stereotypes of teenagers, the archetypes. You know, you've got the sort of the cool kids who are pushing everyone into this thing, and they're sort of they've got the connect. You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
all you could put in like drugs or drinking or smoking into this, and it'd be
Yeah.
the same sort of environment, right? Like, you know. So those 2 older kids, you've got the sort of buttoned up Christian sort of kid who's
I enjoyed
roped
the
in
boyfriend,
and-
by the way. What's his deal?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my god, when she was sucking his toes,
Yeah,
that was sick.
I'm not really sure why he was in it. He didn't really have much to do, come to think of it. But he kind of
Well, you need a certain amount of characters, and
he
like,
was someone for her to talk to
I mean,
in the middle, I
he
guess.
was someone for her to suck his toes.
Yeah, you need someone so toast to be
That
sucked.
was unbelievable, though. That
Yeah.
whole, like, when she was in full hallucination mode. And was thought that she was watching all
Oh,
the stuff,
yeah,
and
that
it was
was
actually
creepy.
her doing it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
sick.
Which is
Okay,
almost more scary to wake up and realise that was you doing it.
It's horrifying. We
Um,
better go.
Right. Thanks for listening.
Let us know what you thought.
We're at thecinemile@gmail.com or at thecinemile on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And Twitter.
And Twitter doesn't exist anymore. It's not a
And
thing.
Most of all, it's please leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We greatly
Oh, yes,
appreciate
please.
5 stars on Spotify or iTunes, or come over to patreon.com/theCinemile, where we're watching a ton of TV, and we're about to start All Mankind season 4.
Oh,
which
yes.
I can't wait for.
Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Talk to me.
I'm Laura,
I'm Lauren.
and this is Go Love Yourself. And she went, "You're 26." I was like, "Size 26, yeah." And she was like, "Oh, right, that makes sense."
This is the show where we're learning to love ourselves a little more and taking you along with us.
I grew up never seeing anybody that looked like me, and that made me feel like not part of society, like almost like not a woman, because I just never felt like I fit in.
If you've got a relative that is mean about your body, Laura, what do we say to them?